Good evening. It's been a while since I've done a video, so welcome back. Today, I want to go on a little bit of a motherfucking rant because it's been a while and a lot of things have happened. And some of the things that have happened are confounding because they make no sense. So let's start off talking about government briefly. The U.S. government. Now, there are three branches of government: the executive, which is the president, his cabinet, the agencies; the legislature, which is the House and the Senate. And frankly, I do not see why we have a Senate. Nobody has been able to explain to me the purpose of a fucking Senate, except that it mirrors the House of Lords in the UK. And the Lords are aristocrats, the former land barons. And those seats are inherited. So you do not vote for a lord, but you're born to be a lord. The Parliament mimics our House of Representatives. So if the U.S. is not an aristocracy, why do we have a Senate? The Senate serves no purpose. But anyway, the third branch is the judiciary. Now, the purpose of the three branches of government is such that they form checks and balances on each other. The Congress allocates funds to be spent. Yes, you hear about the president coming up with a budget, but at the end of the day, the president's budget is nothing unless Congress approves it. And the people who approve the budget is the House, specifically the House Appropriations Committee, which then takes it to the House floor for a vote. The executive, for the most part, is responsible for national defense and international relations, whether that be on a diplomatic level through the Secretary of State or on a commercial level through the Department of Commerce. National defense is through the Pentagon, the Defense Department. But moreover, now the judiciary's responsibility is to act in accordance with the law as established, which is the code, criminal code, legislative actions and how they may impact the law, and regulatory actions that come from the different agencies, such as the EPA, the Department of Interior, Department of Energy. They may put forth certain regulations that govern business or individuals. And if a business or an individual violates one of those regulations, then the courts take it up. For the most part, the courts function on the premise of precedence. Precedence is if you go to trial and you put forth a certain defense for a crime and you are acquitted, then if I go to trial and I put forth the same defense, I could refer to your case as precedence. At such and such a date, in such and such a case, involving such and such individual, appearing before such and such a court, the argument was A, B, C, D. The appellate judges ruled that based on A, B, C, D, and based on this provision in the Constitution, or in legislative code, said person was not guilty. So I am presenting my case with respect to that case as precedents. At the top level, Supreme Court, its responsibility is to interpret the Constitution and how current laws as applied fall in line or out of line with the Constitution. That said, it is the fiduciary responsibility of the House of Representatives to bring forth impeachment charges against a president who has violated his contractual obligations under the oath he took when he was sworn in as president. Let's be clear. Let us be very clear. The U.S. government works for American people, not the other way around. We are not a monarchy. We do not have a king who we answer to. We, the people, own this bitch. The senators, the representatives, the president, all those motherfuckers answer to us. The police are our employees. I'll say that again. The police are our employees. The police are not above the law. Hence, for a prosecutor to not bring forth charges against a policeman who is guilty of a crime, that prosecutor has failed in their responsibility, and as a district attorney who is elected to represent the legal rights and interests of the people in that district, he has violated his contractual obligation and he needs to get the fuck out. What these stupid Negroes need to start doing, instead of marching and protesting, sue the DA, sue the city for failing to fulfill their contractual obligations to the citizens. Fuck this marching. Sue them. Take them to court. Because when you take them to court and you put that DA on the stand and you say, Mr. DA, when you were elected DA, did you or did you not understand that the people are your boss? Not the police commissioner, not the police union, the people. Hence, why are you not charging that policeman? Let's move on. What I want to talk about is impeachment. That's what I want to talk about. And I want to understand what the fuck is wrong with Nancy Pelosi. In a way, I see what she's trying to do. It's a very risky game. Very risky. What Pelosi is trying to do, see, if you impeach Trump and you get him out of office, he becomes a disgraced private citizen. Because of double jeopardy, it becomes very hard to bring him up on charges in a court as a private citizen, given that he's already been tried on those same charges as a president during his impeachment hearings. So there's money laundering. Trump has been laundering money for the Russian mob. That's a known fact. His father was laundering money for the Italian mob. That's a known fact. All right? That's a felony. There's corruption. There's a lot of things that are taking place behind the scenes that none of these news networks are reporting on. Things involving Trump's children and the business dealings they're doing. Things involving Kushner and the business dealings he's doing or his family is doing, using the office of the presidency. I would dare bet you, I would dare bet you that the reason the U.S.-China trade talks are back on is because when Trump met with the president of China, he said, look, man, I want to do some shit out here. You got to cut through some red tape for me. You do that for me, the trade talks are back on. But no one is looking into that. Why? Why? So, if you impeach Trump on obstruction of justice, on corruption charges, on bribery, on money laundering, and you get him out of office, he never spends a day in jail. But if Trump loses the election, and on the day of losing, the very next day, he's in court on all these charges, he's looking at least 20 years in prison. His children are looking at prison. All of the Kushners are looking at prison. Many of his former cabinet members and current cabinet members are looking at prison. And that's the game Nancy Pelosi's playing. But there's a very big if. A very big if. If he does not win re-election. Now, right now, I'm looking at all these Democrats, and the way he trampled over those Republicans, Jeb Bush, the Bush dynasty, I think Mitt Romney was there, the way he just trampled over them. He's going to kill these Democrats. They got no spine. They can't fight back. And he knows how to play the media. So, if he gets back in reelected, then you're talking about another 4 years to bring him to trial. It's not going to work, Nancy. It's not going to work. I know you want to see him locked up. And I know he deserves to be locked up. But remember your fiduciary responsibility to the citizens and your contractual obligation to the Constitution. You have to proceed with impeachment now. Because I want you to think about this, Nancy. I want you to think about this. There are white people out there. And I know we see the KKK with their hoods on, the neo-Nazis, the alt-right. And they say, oh, that's a minority of white people. That's the fringe elements. Most white people, we're progressive. We're inclusive. We embrace everyone. Really? Really? About 75% of white men knew what Trump was about, yet they voted for him. 75%. That means that when you walk down the street and you pass 4 white men, 3 of them are Trump supporters. They're not out there displaying it, but deep in their heart, they're Trump supporters. White men are innately racist because white men are insecure as shit. That is why white men run around acting like they this. They ain't shit, and they know they ain't shit. And that builds a tremendous insecurity in their little shit, pathetic souls. So Pelosi, 3/4 of white men believe what Trump says. Trump is the voice of white men. White women, about 60 to 65% of white women voted for Trump. Mr. Grab them by the pussy. Mr. My daughter is a hot piece of ass. 60 to 65% of white women voted for Trump. They had a white woman running, but they chose Trump. What does that tell you? Black person, Mexican person, Asian person? What does that tell you? Fuck what you see on TV. Fuck what comes out their mouth. White people today are as racist as they were 30 years ago, 80 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. You think I'm bullshitting? Observe them. Observe them. See how they act. When something happens in the black community, in the Asian community, the Mexican community, you see all these white people coming trying to tell those people how to act. Why? If something happens in the Mexican community, why can't I go there and sit down with the Mexicans and say, what's going on? And learn from them instead of going to the Mexicans and telling them blah, 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 blah. White people are fucking racist. And that shit ain't changing no time soon. So, Miss Pelosi, these white people, and you better talk to your FBI. And you better talk to your sheriffs. Because if it looks like Trump is going to lose in 2020, and he goes out there and riles up his racist white people, and the white people who are not out there visibly with him, but who are with him, join along, it could very well be a bloodbath, Ms. Pelosi. Especially if he knows his loss will land him in jail. Especially if he knows that. Based on that premise, impeachment is the only reasonable way forward. You want to get through the courts? You want to get your subpoenas heard? You want to get these witnesses that you want? Begin with impeachment proceedings. Fuck if the Senate will back him on this. Because what you need to also start thinking about, Ms. Pelosi, is what does Trump have on these Republicans? They say, well, they're afraid of his base. Really? If I'm a Republican in New York, running for a Senate seat in New York, in Maine, in New Hampshire, in California, how the fuck is Trump's base gonna affect me? Food for thought, Ms. Pelosi. Food for thought. I highly suspect that Trump has dirt on all of these Republicans. Whether it's, as an example, Paul Ryan having an affair, and Paul Ryan is a Catholic, and he's supposed to be an upstanding Catholic, so now if he has an affair and that comes out, he gets a divorce, it's a big mess. Or maybe Lindsey Graham likes little boys, and he's been cavorting with little boys, so now if this comes out, oh, Lindsey Graham is a faggot, and he's a pedophile? Talk to the FBI. Because remember, there's a dude called Gay Edgar Hoover. He had dirt on all you politicians, and all you did what the fuck he wanted you to do. I do not think it is too far-fetched to speculate, and this is speculation, but I do not think it is too far-fetched to speculate that Trump is blackmailing Republican lawmakers. And that is a serious fucking crime. You should probably investigate that angle. CNN, New York Times, all you guys, you should probably investigate that angle. You might find something. But impeachment is our recourse as a people to remove a tyrant or would-be tyrant from office. And it is your responsibility, Ms. Pelosi, to initiate the proceedings. We can't do it. The way we the people take a tyrant from office is the Second Amendment. We bear arms for the purpose of the formation of a militia, such that we may rise up to violently overthrow a tyrant. Impeachment is the first step. If that fails, then we the people have to take on the next step. Please, Ms. Pelosi, do your job. Impeach this fool. I know you want to see him locked up, and I want to see him locked up too, but there's federal crimes and there's state crimes. Impeachment is at the federal level. Double jeopardy does not apply when I try you for one thing at the federal level and try you for something similar at the state level. It's different jurisdictions. Hence, let New York try him at the state level and you impeach him. Make him a private citizen so New York can make him a citizen of jail in New York, Attica. I think that's what they call it. Illegal immigration. See, in every country I've been to, Canada, the Philippines, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, I didn't need a visa per se because I'm a U.S. citizen. But when I got off the plane, they took record. This American is now in our country. They took record. Now, if I'd have gone to Brazil and decided, oh, I'm just living in Brazil forever, I'm going to go get me a job and do this, the Brazilians would have said, motherfucker, get the fuck out. This is Brazil for Brazilians. And they'd have a right to do that. When a Chinaman decides, I'm going to go to the U.S., I'm going to study at Caltech. When a Pakistani man decides the same. When a Kenyan man decides the same. When a Swedish man, an Australian man, a German man, a Ghanaian man, a Vietnamese man, when any other motherfucker from Asia, South America, Africa, the Caribbean, Australia, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, when any other motherfucker decides they want to come to the U.S., whether to live, whether to study, whether to visit, they go through a procedure. You want to come in here and be a student? Get a student visa. You want to come here for work purposes? Get an H-1B visa. You want to come and migrate and live there? Become a permanent resident or a citizen. A British motherfucker ain't just gonna get on British Airways and fly to Reagan National Airport and get off the plane and say, I'm now an American. Motherfuckers immigration gonna say, all right, dude, what the fuck you doing here? You got a visa? No? Okay. The plane's right here. Turn around. Get the fuck back. Every other part of this world has to go through that process. So what makes these Central Americans, these Mexicans, what makes them so special that they could just walk across a border? They don't have to wait in line like everyone else. There's Europeans, Asians, Africans, Caribbeans, South Americans waiting in line, going to the U.S. Embassy every fucking day, trying to get to this country, applying to universities, applying to companies to get sponsorship as an H-1B visa. And they don't come here till they got that paperwork right. What makes these Central Americans so special? What, they're getting persecuted? You go to China right now. There's Chinese getting persecuted. Go to Africa. There's Africans getting persecuted. I'm sure you go to South America, there's South Americans getting persecuted. Go to the Middle East. Iraq, Iran, Syria, Saudi Arabia. Those motherfuckers are getting persecuted, yet they wait in line. What makes these Central Americans so special? Some would say it's a democratic issue. It's the libtards. That's what they call them, the libtards. They want to let everyone in. Really? In California right now, you, a white man, an Asian man, a black man, cannot get into the landscaping industry because the Mexicans have it locked down like a cartel. Construction industry, it'll be hard as hell to get into the construction industry once again because the Mexicans got it locked down. When Mexicans get into an industry, they shut everyone out. And they say they're American. We need to look at the facts. The people that benefit from illegal immigration are the agricultural companies, the food processing companies like Tyson's Chicken and all of that, all these labor-intensive companies like distribution centers, manufacturing centers, light industrial manufacturing, the construction industry, the fast food industry, the garment textiles industry. These labor-intensive industries, in which labor could account for up to 60, 70, 80% of cost of production. Think about it. If I'm making this bottle, and I could sell this bottle for $3, and it costs me $2 to make this bottle, I'm only making $1 profit. If 80% of that $2, that's $1.60, is labor, which means 40% is materials and equipment, $1.60 is labor. If I could knock that $1.60 down to 60 cents, I've doubled my profit on this bottle. That is what is happening in the construction industry, in the fast food industry, in the large-scale retail industry like your Walmarts, in your fast food industry.